2014 was the deadliest year for global terrorist attack. That's according to the U.S. Director of National Intelligence. James Clapper briefed U.S. lawmakers and addressed the growing threat from ISIL. CCTV correspondent Nathan King is in the newsroom. Nathan, at one point, Clapper cited Iran and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea for using cyber warfare against the U.S. What were some of the other findings?
Yeah, you're right, Asya. James Clapper never really pulls his punches, and sometimes his words have led to controversy. Remember, in 2013, he was accused of lying to Congress by saying the U.S. does not wittingly collect the bulk phone data of U.S. citizens, and that led to calls for his resignation. But he's still there, and this year's global threat assessment can be summed up in one word: instability. The director of the National Intelligence Agency sees instability everywhere, across the ground, in the Middle East, and also online, through the rapid growth of cyber attacks. On terrorism, Clapper says 2014 saw the highest number of attacks in 45 years when record keeping began, about 11,500 attacks in all, and while the majority happened in just 3 countries, Iraq, Afghanistan and Pakistan, he said Syria's civil war and the rise of ISIL have added to that number.
Since the conflict began, more than 20,000 Sunni foreign fighters have traveled to Syria from more than 90 countries to fight the Assad regime. Of that number, at least 13,600 have extremist ties. More than 3,400 Western fighters have gone to Syria and Iraq. Hundreds have returned home to Europe. About 180 Americans or so have been involved in various stages of travel to Syria. ISIL's rise represents the greatest shift in the Sunni violent extremist landscape since al-Qaeda affiliates first began forming. And it is the first to assume at least some characteristics of a nation-state.
Clapper says he thinks ISIL has as many as 32,000 fighters, but that U.S. airstrikes and other attacks have killed, quote, thousands, Asya.
Of course, violent attacks like kidnappings and killings are one form of terrorism, but there is another type of terrorism as well.
Yeah, you mean cyber terrorism, and 2014 saw a sharp uptick in attacks on the U.S., and Clapper said it was the first time that U.S. companies have been targeted by nation states. And he cited 2 examples: the attack on Sony, which the U.S. of course blames on the DPRK, and an attack on the Sands Casino Corporation out of Las Vegas, which he blamed on Iran. Clapper also said the U.S. had underestimated Russia's cyber abilities, and he mentioned China's rising ability in that area too. And it's no secret, by the way, that the U.S. is expanding its cyber warfare capabilities dramatically. Now, Clapper labeled Russia's main foreign policy objectives as aggressive, and he also cited China's increasingly military clout in terms of material and increasingly sophisticated exercises. So he said there were lots of different threats, all against the United States in 2014, and they'll continue into 2015.
All right, Nathan King, thank you.
Thank you.